In this video, we will survey several broad misconceptions of the free market. Understanding these basic misconceptions will help us to better understand why the free market is so underappreciated today. In later lessons, we will look more in depth at particular issues that are only addressed here broadly. The broadest criticism of the free market is the view that the free market is in some way bad for us. Critics suggest that the free market is bad for us either spiritually, psychologically, or physically. We will take each of these criticisms in turn and look at how defenders of the free market answer these criticisms. Spiritually, critics of the free market tell us that the free market is a system of greed. It is money-centered, profit-driven, and materially, as opposed to spiritually focused. For this reason, critics claim it has a corrupting influence on us. It encourages immoral behavior, greediness, short-sightedness, and materialism. And whether such critics would like us to be more religious or more fulfilled, the free market, they claim, fails to encourage us towards this end, because all it offers are superficial, material ends. Further, because greed is rewarded by the system, critics say, it is likely to lead to a situation where the greediest, most unscrupulous rise to the top, people like Bernie Madoff and companies like Enron. Psychologically, critics of the free market claim that this system is mentally unhealthy for us. They make three main points. First, a system focused on money and profit orients us towards selfishness and momentary desires, critics claim. It turns our focus away from our long-term best interest and society's best interest and towards momentary pleasures and short-sighted goals. Focused only on the short term, we fail to achieve our long-term well-being and society's well-being. We become pleasure-driven, emotionally ridden creatures who never reach our full human potential. Second, the drive towards profit and the desire to calculate everything in terms of money leads to a disintegration of human relationships, critics claim. It makes us cold, inhumane, and uncaring towards others, interacting with other people only when and if we materially benefit. As Marx states in the Communist Manifesto, quote, "The capitalist market economy has resolved personal worth into exchange value. It has converted the physician, the lawyer, the priest, the poet, the man of science into paid wage laborers. It has even reduced the family to a mere money relation." Unquote. Third, because the free market forces us to specialize in some career or some line of work, critics claim, it makes us one-sided. It alienates us from our true potential as a well-rounded, self-actualized person. Marxist psychologist Erich Fromm famously wrote that the free market alienates us from ourselves and from other people. It turns us into an appendage of the factory system rather than a well-rounded, happy member of the community. Turning now to the last category of complaint, critics of the free market claim that it does not promote our physical health. We see this criticism in the many attacks on corporate food chains as trying to sell us food that tastes good but is overwhelmingly bad for us. We see it in the attacks on big pharmaceutical companies as only trying to collude with doctors to feed us drugs we don't need. We see it in the suspicion that comes along with every new form of technology that is born out of the free market. Critics come from every avenue to challenge whether such technology is really good for us or is just another ploy for profit. This is true, for instance, with the many past and present critics of cell phone technology, of chemical pesticides, of food preservatives, of artificial food sweeteners, and the movement to ban insect repellent using DEET. In the past, environmentalists have worked to ban aerosol spray cans, claiming it is damaging to the ozone layer. Recent unfounded attacks on fracking technology has raised fears about its detrimental effects to public health. Recently, the claim that an ingredient in sunscreen might cause cancer went viral on social media. And attacks on genetically modified foods, items made with the aid of science and technology to improve their appearance, abundance, taste, or quality, is seen daily in the news. These claims all emanate from the perspective that under the free market, large businesses and corporations are out to get the consumer, to make short-term profits at the expense of the public's health and well-being. How are we to answer these criticisms? Let us take each category of criticism in turn. First, we'll address the claim that the free market diminishes us spiritually. The free market is a system that respects an individual's rights to liberty and property. Because of this, it leaves people free to think, to invent, to produce, and to achieve great things, whether on one's own or in cooperation with others. The free market protects the rights and freedoms of individuals, and members are rewarded in this system for their hard work, ingenuity, and productiveness. Spiritual critics of the free market assume that dealing in money is in some way wrong or immoral. But why? Money is just a measure of subjective value. It's just a tool of exchange, without which we would be reduced to bartering for goods. Understanding the true nature of money here is important. Also, just because the free market uses money doesn't mean that everyone has to, nor does it mean that we lose our morality when we use money. There are many relationships we might choose to enter into not on the basis of money, but on the basis of friendship, love, entertainment, admiration, charity, etc. The free market leaves us free to do this. In securing freedom for each of us, the free market allows us to pursue whatever type of life and whatever form of relationship we believe will fulfill us. It recognizes that morality is chosen and spirituality is a profoundly personal, independent matter not to be legislated by government. In regard to the claim that the free market harms us psychologically, that it makes us short-sighted, greedy, irrational, this could not be further from the truth. The free market creates a political environment where people deal with one another voluntarily to their own mutual benefit. Just because people deal in money and get paid in money does not mean that they'll lose their rationality. In fact, the free market forces people to make rational decisions because it's based on a profit and loss mechanism. Economist Ludwig von Mises has described the free market economy as a system whereby every participant votes with his or her dollars on who will profit and who will succeed. Those who serve customers the best, with the greatest products, the best service, the lowest prices, are rewarded. Those who fail to please their customers fail to earn profits. They experience losses, and if these losses continue, they'll go out of business. To the criticism that the free market makes us psychologically cold and inhumane towards others, we must again ask why money has to corrupt human relationships. Money serves a vital function. In comparison with the alternative, a barter system, money brings people together in a most efficient way. It enables us to save and give in ways that are not possible in a barter economy. Further, to Marx's suggestion that money leaves, quote, no other nexus between man and man than naked self-interest and callow cash payment, again we must ask why. Just because we live in a money-based economy, in a wealthy society, does not mean that we cease being kind or generous or charitable. Indeed, some of the greatest examples of philanthropy have come from the greatest businessmen, individuals like Andrew Carnegie, John D. Rockefeller, and Bill Gates. Finally, regarding the charge of alienation, that the free market forces us to specialize in some line of work and that this makes us one-sided, unbalanced, unfulfilled, and alienated from ourselves and others, we must respond in two ways. First, we can ask, is this true? And if so, why? In looking at whether alienation is a systemic problem, we must recognize that in the advanced age of capitalism, we certainly see people alienated from themselves and others. There are professors who live in their books and can't interact with the real world. There are accountants and software engineers who sit in cubicles all day, failing to see how their work adds up to anything meaningful. And there are customer service representatives who dread Mondays and live for the weekends. In an age of such wealth and diversity, however, there's little reason why someone should be stuck in a job for a prolonged period of time that they find meaningless and unenjoyable. The free market is a system of freedom and opportunity, which anyone can seize with industry and hard work. This is what the American dream represents. Further, there's little evidence that alienation is a systemic problem. People in developed capitalist nations have the freedom to choose careers they find meaningful and leave lines of work where they are unhappy. A recent story in the news highlights the choice of Jason Brown, a center back with the St. Louis Rams, who left the NFL to pursue a career as a farmer in rural North Carolina. As the article indicates, he had at one point a $37 million contract, but dropped it all to become, quote, a plain old farmer, in his words. And speaking about his first crop of sweet potatoes, he said, "When you see them pop out of the ground, man, it's the most beautiful thing you could ever see," unquote. Other people might say the same thing about a canvas of art or a new shopping center or a Microsoft Excel spreadsheet. Different things make different people happy, and in the free market, people are free to pursue the lines of work that they find most meaningful to them. Some may fail in the line of work they are passionate about, but this shouldn't be a reason to deprive the rest of us of our liberties in the pursuit of our happiness. Regarding the last category of complaint, our physical health, we have seen that critics of the free market believe that because businesses pursue profit as their central goal, this makes them focus on profits over people, as the popular tagline states. We see again that this is a variant on the view that money corrupts and that wealth breaks down an individual and a society's moral principles. Under capitalism, critics claim, we experience overproduction, pollution, corporations taking shortcuts on product safety, businesses elevating taste and appearance over health and nutrition, and many other such unscrupulous behaviors. The truth is we have never before lived in a society that is safer, healthier, wealthier, more efficient and technologically advanced, and more filled with opportunities for happiness. Prior to the Industrial Revolution, poverty was measured by whether or not you could afford to eat. Life expectancy was in the 30s, and most families lost mothers and children at birth due to disease and infection. Very few people were educated, as only royalty had leisure time, and the risk of illness was ever present due to the lack of sanitation and drinking water. There was a lack of sterilization in medical procedures, and a lack of any method to take care of sewage and human waste. Most people dumped their waste out the window onto the streets, where horses, the main method of transportation, also relieved themselves. Pollution thus was everywhere. Without oil and later electricity to light and heat one's home, fires polluted the air indoors, and the burning of whale oil for candlelight emitted a noxious smell. This is without mentioning the danger of leaving a fire burning all night in a house made entirely of wood. For our clean, safe, healthy environment, we have the free market to thank and businessmen like Watt, Carnegie, Rockefeller, Ford, Edison, and other great men who cleaned up our environment and made our lives safer, healthier, and wealthier.